Estimate what a single focused hour can do, not once, but every day. It's not about finding more time, it's about commanding it. Because 1 hour of deep, deliberate effort builds the future brick by brick. It rewires your habits, reshapes your confidence, and reclaims your control. The difference between average and exceptional? Often, it's what you do every day. In a few moments, I will teach how 1 hour a day can rebuild your habits, refocus your mind, and transform everything. 1 hour is not small, it is supreme. You tell yourself there is no time, but 1 hour? It slips away every single day, lost in gossip, waiting. Now consider this. What if that 1 hour could build the life you want instead of burying it beneath excuses? You think it's just an hour, but when repeated with intention, it becomes a force. 1 hour a day is 7 hours a week. That's 30 hours a month. That's 365 hours a year. Nearly 10 full-time working weeks a year. What could you do with that much time? The reason most people fail is not because they lack opportunity. It's because they do not harness their time. They spend it. You must invest it. When you devote 1 hour a day to your goal, you are not just doing an activity. You are becoming someone. You are training your mind to obey your vision, not your mood. Take, for instance, the story of an uneducated clerk who decided to use 1 hour every night to study law. In just a few years, he passed the bar and transformed his destiny. What changed? Not his past, his use of the present. Ask yourself, what are you doing with your extra hour? Are you wasting it on comfort or spending it on becoming? Because the life you want isn't found in a year. It's hidden in an hour. Use it and the world bends. Waste it and the world wins. Decide what you want that hour to build. Most people drift. They hope something great happens, but nothing happens unless something is planned. That 1 hour must have a target, not a wish, a decision. You cannot build a tower if you don't know what you're building. Without a clear destination, your hour will be consumed by noise. Great achievers are not always the smartest. They are simply focused. 1 hour of targeted learning, writing, creating, or planning will give you an edge that wandering minds cannot catch. But to do this, you must choose. What skill do you want? What result? What transformation? Do not try to chase 5 dreams in 1 hour. Pick one. Grow roots. Water them daily. In time, they will feed every area of your life. So I ask you, what dream have you abandoned because you thought it took too long? And what if it didn't? What if all it took was an hour a day and a promise you would keep it? Train your hour to discipline your mind. The battle is not in the clock, it is in the mind. The ticking hands of time are not your enemy. Your hesitations are, your fears, your distractions, your excuses. These are the forces that resist you. Time merely reveals the truth. Whether you command your will or your will is being commanded by something weaker within. The greatest war you will ever fight is not with time, but with self. And it is a battle waged every single day, often in the silence of 1 single hour. Discipline is not a gift that some are born with and others are not. It is a muscle, one that you must tear and rebuild through repetition, through resistance, through choice. Every morning, when you choose to sit, to work, to write, to pray, to train, you are placing another brick in the fortress of your identity. You are becoming a man who does what must be done, not what he feels like doing. And that, my friend, is power. People chase motivation like it's fuel. They wait for it like a train that might show up if the weather is good. But motivation is fleeting. Discipline is forged. It is the steel that holds up your purpose when the winds of laziness and doubt blow hard against your soul. When you rely on motivation, you build on sand. When you rely on discipline, you build on rock. So use this hour not just to work on something, but to train something. Your consistency, your obedience to purpose, your rebellion against delay. This hour is not a small thing. It is the training ground for everything else. 1 hour of focus teaches the brain who is in charge. It reminds your body that you are the master and not the servant. I once knew a man who began each day not with coffee or conversation, but with a declaration. He would read aloud who he was becoming. Not who he was, but who he had decided to be. And he did it with fire in his voice. Every day, 1 hour, the same words, over and over. He said it rewired his soul, that he used to feel like a leaf in the wind, tossed, uncertain, afraid. But now, he said, I am the wind. I decide the direction. 1 hour did that. 1 hour each morning, not to impress the world, but to reconstruct himself. You may think, what if I fail? What if I can't keep the rhythm? But I ask you, what if you never train yourself to try? What if you stay a prisoner of moods, a puppet to comfort, a servant to circumstance? There is no glory in ease. There is only regret in inaction. But there is power, deep, world-moving power in discipline. 1 hour a day is not about time management. It is about identity transformation. It is about telling your old self to sit down because a new self is being built. You don't need to win the whole war today. Just win 1 hour. Win it with intensity. Win it with commitment. Win it with the full belief that the man you were is not the man you are becoming. And then do it again tomorrow. That is how strength is born. So tomorrow, when the sun is just beginning to speak to the earth, and the world is still quiet, and no one is watching, show up, not for applause, not for outcome, but for mastery, for the inner victory, for the new you. Because when you win that first hour, the rest of the day listens. Protect the hour like a sacred ritual. You will be tempted to skip, to delay, to compromise. The resistance will not always shout. Sometimes it will whisper. Just 5 more minutes. Do it later. It doesn't matter today, but it does matter, especially today. Because this hour, the hour you dedicate to your growth, your craft, your purpose, must not be casual. It must be sacred. You wouldn't miss a doctor's appointment. You wouldn't cancel a job interview. You wouldn't ignore a call from destiny if you knew the number. So why treat your own future with any less respect? Why offer your dreams the leftover minutes instead of your prime focus? Create an altar around that hour. Not one of superstition, but one of intention. Light no candles. Burn no incense, but burn with purpose. Prepare your space, lay out your books, sharpen your tools, clear your desk, shut the door. Let the silence speak to you. Let the people around you know during this hour you are not to be disturbed, because in this hour you are building your future, brick by invisible brick. I once heard of a man who turned his walk-in closet into a study, a small windowless room barely large enough for a desk. And every night, for 1 hour, he disappeared. No interruptions. Just thought, learning, and writing. For 10 years, he kept this rhythm. 10 years of solitude, of sacred effort. And when he emerged, he did not just have knowledge, he had clarity. He had influence. He had wealth. The closet, small as it was, became his cathedral. What about you? Where is your cathedral? Where is the one space you protect without apology? The 1 hour you guard like treasure? Because if you do not create such a space, the world will take it from you. Not maliciously, but casually. A message here, a conversation there, a little entertainment, a little distraction. And before you know it, the hour meant to change your life is buried under the rubble of convenience. You must be fierce in your protection of this hour. Build boundaries around it. Defend it from the intrusions of lesser things. This is not just time on a clock. It is a sacred contract between who you are and who you could be. And if you violate it, you are not just losing time. You are betraying your own potential. Too many men wait for perfect conditions. They wait for a quiet house, a good mood, a clear schedule. But greatness is not born from convenience. It is born from commitment. It is born from the man who says, even though I'm tired, I show up. Even though the world is noisy, I listen to my purpose. Even though it would be easier to postpone, I honor my vow. The difference between the ordinary and the extraordinary is not talent. It is respect. Respect for time. Respect for growth. Respect for the process. And when you give this hour your full honor, it returns the favor by transforming your life. You may not see the results today or tomorrow, but that hour, practiced daily, becomes your teacher, your trainer, your sculptor. It refines your character, deepens your thinking, strengthens your will. It builds a man who does not flinch when difficulty comes, a man who is rooted in purpose. This is how empires are built, not in noise, not in chaos, but in quiet, consistent moments of private discipline. A kingdom is not lost in a single day, and it is not built in one either, but brick by brick, hour by hour. The man who respects his time raises a structure that the storms of life cannot shake. So tomorrow, when the voice of temptation comes, and it will, remember your vow. Remember your cathedral. Close the door, silence the world, and say, "This hour belongs to my future. I will not trade it for anything less." Because this hour is not just a block on a calendar. It is a line drawn in the sand, a line between who you are and who you are meant to be. Honor it and watch everything change. Stack the power of compounding effort. 1 hour may not look like much in a single day. It slips by unnoticed. You waste it in traffic, in idle chatter, in waiting rooms, or lost in thought. But what if you claimed that hour every single day? Over weeks, that hour becomes a mountain, a fortress, a legacy. It is the quiet, invincible power of compound effort. The force that turns invisible drops into oceans. Every repetition matters. Every decision builds on the last. 1 page written, 1 chapter read, 1 skill practiced. It may seem forgettable today, but tomorrow's power is hidden in today's pattern. Greatness is not loud, it's not dramatic, it is silent, invisible consistency. The man who studies for 1 hour a day does not become a genius overnight, but in a year, his mind is sharper than swords, his wisdom outpaces luck, because knowledge, once earned, does not expire, and skill, once developed, does not vanish. Consider the bricklayer. He stands before an empty plot with a single brick in hand. 1 brick is laughable, meaningless, but he lays it anyway, then returns the next day, then the next. Precision and care, every time. Days pass, then months, until one morning, without fanfare, he stands before a wall, then a house, then a fortress. That's how mastery is built, brick by brick, hour by hour. Your 1 hour is your brick. It is not about intensity, it is about identity. Who are you becoming through repetition? Because success is not an event, it is not a lucky break, it is the compounded proof of who you are. A person who returns daily, a person who does the work no one claps for, a person who builds in silence. So ask yourself, what are you compounding today? Are you stacking distractions? Are you reinforcing doubt? Or are you building discipline? Are you layering skill upon skill, day upon day, until your character becomes unshakable? Because the world is not changed by what you do once. It is changed by what you keep doing. The hour you waste today might not hurt, but 10 wasted hours, 50, 100, that's a life slipping by. But the reverse is just as true. 10 focused hours, 50 refined ones, 100, that's a life rebuilt, hour by hour. If you can command 1 hour, you can command your life. 1 hour of purpose a day is enough to outpace those who move in bursts and collapse. 1 hour of calm execution is more powerful than a week of chaos. Control the hour and you control the narrative, because your life is not the sum of your intentions, it is the sum of your repetitions. So take the hour, make it sacred, guard it like a king guards his crown. No excuses, no distractions, 1 page, 1 workout, 1 idea. Over time, these fragments become your legacy. The question is not whether 1 hour matters. The question is, how long will you keep pretending it doesn't? Turn your hour into a laboratory of growth. Some men wait for change to find them. They sit in stillness, hoping that one day life will bend in their favor. But the wise do not wait. The wise create change by design, not delay. They understand that 1 sacred hour a day can reshape a lifetime, not through magic, but through method. That hour becomes a private laboratory, a sacred forge, a hidden workshop where future selves are molded, tested, and strengthened. This hour is not for show. It's not posted, praised, or rewarded. It is quiet, It is yours. It is where you get to stumble in secret, to fail without fear, to test wild ideas without judgment. It is where the next version of you begins to stir, a place untouched by noise, unspoiled by opinion, a sanctuary of growth. The world will not hand you excellence. It will not drop brilliance on your lap. It does not owe you transformation. Excellence must be forged in solitude, in sweat, in silence. You must carve out the time where no one watches and make something out of it. That 1 hour, protected and repeated, becomes the cradle of innovation. It is where dreams are sharpened into plans and where plans begin their long march toward reality. 1 hour a day. That is all it took for a school teacher to become one of the most powerful voices of the 20th century. Each evening, James Baldwin returned from teaching and sat to write. No fame, no deal, just a fire within. He practiced in private until the world could no longer look away. His hour built a voice that would echo across generations. This is not just about art, it is about life. That hour might be your writing desk, your sketch pad, your journal, your lab, your gym, or your prayer. What matters is not the form, it is the commitment, the dedication to step outside the routine and into reinvention. Day by day, hour by hour, the future is built. Ask yourself, are you merely repeating the same days, or are you evolving? Are you running laps inside your comfort zone, or are you venturing, exploring, risking in a space reserved for your future self to breathe? Because you cannot become someone new unless you give yourself the space to try. You must build an arena where the stakes are low but the growth is high, where you can fall and rise again, not for the applause but for the progress. That space is the hour you dedicate to transformation. Time is not what we lack. What we often lack is intention. 1 hour spent with fierce intention can outweigh 10 hours of unconscious repetition. It is not the quantity of time that changes you. It is the quality of attention you bring to it. Honor that hour. Defend it. Make it your own, because the future does not arrive fully formed. It is rehearsed in the quiet, in the dark, when no one sees. That 1 hour, it's your rehearsal, your refuge, your revolution. And if you keep returning to it day after day, it will become the hour that rewrites your destiny. Use the hour to align with your higher self each day. The world offers you 100 versions of who to be. Loud voices, tempting shortcuts, urgent distractions, all trying to shape your identity for you. But only one version matters, the one you deliberately choose. That is your true self. And choosing it requires time, intention, silence. That is what the sacred hour is for. Not just action, but alignment. It is the hour you step away from the noise, not to get more done, but to remember who you are becoming. A quiet recalibration, a sharpening of the compass. 1 hour to pull your thoughts, your choices, your emotions back into sync with the man you know you must become. Because when you fail to align, you drift. You respond to life instead of directing it. But when you align, you don't react, you lead. This hour can take many forms: a journal, a walk, a quiet corner with your thoughts. What matters is not how you do it, but that you do it with honesty, not as performance, but as preparation. When you reflect deeply on your values, your goals, your standards, your conscience becomes sharper, your path becomes clearer. The fog of confusion lifts, and in its place stands direction. I once met a man who, before every sunrise, sat in silence with a single question: what must I do today to deserve tomorrow? Not what he wanted, but what he owed. Not what the world expected, but what his soul demanded. That 1 hour made him a lion among sheep. He did not rise with the noise of others. He rose with the voice of purpose, and that voice became his power. We live in an age of momentum without meaning. Many wake up and run, but they don't know where. They chase validation, urgency, applause. But alignment, that requires stillness, discipline, reflection. The man who walks with intention does not need to prove himself. His actions are proof enough. Ask yourself, are your daily choices guided by impulse or identity? Do you take time to become someone, or are you merely surviving the day? Because if you do not choose your identity, the world will assign you one. and it will not fit. It will feel hollow, directionless, unfulfilled. But when you spend that hour in honest communion with your higher self, you rewire your day before it begins. You do not chase meaning, you carry it. You become a vessel for what matters. And when the trials come, as they always do, you do not collapse. You stand, not because of the noise around you, but because of the clarity within you. The man who aligns daily cannot be stopped by opinion. He is not bent by fear. He is not broken by failure. Because he is not led by emotion, he is led by vision, by conscience, by purpose. So claim the hour. Make it sacred. Sit in silence. Write what matters. Ask the hard questions. Realign. Then rise, not as a reaction to the world, but as a response to your calling. Because when a man walks in alignment, even the storms begin to part before him. Excuses are clever. They disguise themselves as wisdom. They sound like reason. They say, "You've had a long day," or "It's better to wait until you're ready," or the most dangerous lie of all, "You'll start tomorrow." But tomorrow is not a day. It is a trap dressed as hope. And the only way to escape it is to carve out an hour so sacred, so unbreakable, that no excuse dares enter. This hour becomes your line in the sand, your non-negotiable. It is not for negotiation, nor for the weather to decide. You show up whether your energy is high or low, whether your thoughts are clear or cloudy. Because the ones who win are not the ones who feel ready, they are the ones who show up anyway. Dreams are everywhere, but doers are rare. And what separates the two? A sacred hour. Not a grand plan, not a perfect schedule, just one uncompromising hour where your actions speak louder than your emotions. A place where discipline replaces motivation and habit crushes hesitation. There once lived a young mason's apprentice. Each day he returned home bruised from work, covered in dust, aching from labor. But in a small room, lit only by candlelight, he kept an old desk. And each night, just for 1 hour, he wrote. He didn't know the rules of drama. He didn't study structure. He had no mentors, only a burning refusal to let excuses win. That boy became Tennessee Williams, and that 1 hour became his legacy. What about you? Have you paused a dream because the pace felt slow? Have you surrendered a goal because the mood wasn't right? What might still be possible if only you gave it one honest hour? Not a perfect hour, not an inspired one, just honest, just consistent. Because your mind grows stronger every time it overrides comfort. Each time you silence the voice that says, "Not today," you strengthen the one that says, "Now." And with repetition, the excuses grow weaker, they knock less often. Until, eventually, they stop knocking at all. That is the reward for your discipline. Freedom. The kind of freedom only earned 1 hour at a time. You may not control your circumstances, but you control this hour. You may not control outcomes, but you control effort. And over time, this hour becomes more than a routine. It becomes your rebellion against weakness, against delay, against every story you've told yourself about what you can't become. So make it sacred, make it simple. Show up even when you don't feel ready, especially then, because that's when it matters most. The hour when excuses are loud is the hour that shapes your future. That is the hour that rewrites your life. The difference between regret and greatness, often just 60 minutes. And those 60 minutes are waiting for you right now. Make the hour a place where faith grows. The world will gladly tell you what's realistic. It will hand you limits disguised as advice. It will shrink your dreams until they fit inside a box called reasonable. But faith was never meant to be reasonable. Faith isn't realistic. It is radical. It believes in what isn't yet. It sees the invisible, and it acts as if the future is already unfolding. That is why this hour must become sacred, not just for action, but for belief. A place where your faith is fed, not diminished. A sanctuary where doubt is silenced and vision is restored. Because the world will always demand proof before effort. But faith begins without evidence. Faith moves before results arrive. It says, even if I can't see it yet, I will still build. You don't need guarantees to begin. You don't need applause, permission, or perfect timing. You need one thing, belief. A belief that your labor is not in vain. that unseen progress is still progress, that even in silence something sacred is growing. You are not wasting time. You are watering a dream that is buried just beneath the surface. I remember a widow. Her name was forgotten by history, but her legacy lived on. Each evening, she gathered a few neighborhood children and taught them how to read. 1 hour a day. No classroom, no funding, just faith. People said it was too small, too simple, too late to matter, but she kept showing up. 1 hour at a time, one child at a time. And years later, one of those children grew up to become a senator. Her belief, small, quiet, persistent, changed generations. So I ask you, what do you believe about yourself? And more importantly, does your daily hour reflect that belief? Are you laboring with faith, or are you waiting for proof? Because faith is not passive. It does not sit and wish. It works. It moves bricks even when the wall isn't visible yet. And when that effort is repeated daily with discipline and devotion, it becomes more than routine. It becomes a force, a fire, a movement. You see, results are not the only proof of progress. Momentum is, energy is, identity is. When you labor in faith, not just busy effort, but believing work, you shift the atmosphere around you. You begin to walk differently, speak differently, carry yourself like someone who already sees the finish line, even if no one else does. And that is the true gift of a faith-filled hour. It doesn't just build goals, it builds you. It trains your mind to act from conviction, not circumstance. It teaches your hands to keep building even when the rain falls. It shows your heart how to hold vision even when the world says let go. So build your hour, fill it with vision. Let every minute declare, I believe something greater is coming. And do not let the smallness of today fool you. Every mighty tree began underground. Every legacy was once invisible. Faith, once proven through discipline, becomes a fire no storm can extinguish. Feed that fire. 1 hour at a time. Make the hour a daily declaration of worth. Time is not just a measure of productivity. It is a measure of value. And every time you devote 1 hour to your own growth, to your own vision, to your own soul, you are declaring something bold. I am worth this. In a world that constantly demands your energy, your attention, your obedience, giving 1 hour back to yourself is a radical act of self-respect. Too many live their entire lives serving others' visions. They meet deadlines, fulfill duties, answer calls, but never answer the calling inside their own heart. They give and give until they vanish inside the roles they play. That sacred hour is your return. It is where you reclaim your name from the noise. It is where you whisper, I matter enough to pause, to build, to dream, to become. It is not selfish. It is necessary, because no one else can live your purpose. No one else can become who you were born to be. That work is yours, and it begins with time. There was once a maid. She cleaned houses from dawn till dusk. Her hands were worn, her back bent, her days long. But every morning, before the sun rose, she painted. 60 minutes. No applause, no promise of recognition, just 1 hour of color and creation before the world claimed the rest of her day. When someone asked why she bothered, exhausted as she was, she smiled and said, because I refuse to believe that all I am is what I do for others. That 1 hour was her rebellion, her sanctuary, her truth. Years later, her art hung in a national exhibit. Critics praised her technique. Crowds gathered around her work. But the victory was not in the gallery. It was in the quiet mornings, in the moments when she chose herself. Even if no one had ever seen her paintings, she had already won. Because the hour was never about results. It was about the respect she gave herself. So let me ask you, do you respect yourself enough to spend time with your own dreams? Or have you become a stranger to your vision? Have you convinced yourself that it can wait, that you're too busy, too tired, too late? Let that hour become your homecoming, your ground zero, the place where you remember who you are, beyond the roles you play, the place where you meet your future self, not by accident, but by appointment. Because when you give yourself that hour, you don't just build habits, you build honor. You begin to carry yourself differently, speak differently, act like someone who knows their life has worth. Let your hour be more than a habit. Let it be a daily revolt against mediocrity, a declaration against delay, a rebellion against the lie that everyone else's needs must always come first. This hour is your contract with your soul. It's your reminder that your growth matters, that your dreams are not childish, that your vision is not optional. So take the time, hold it sacred, defend it like your life depends on it, because in many ways it does. You are worth the hour. You always have been. Now act like it. Build invisible strength while others sleep. The world celebrates what it can see: titles, wealth, trophies, applause. We are drawn to the polished, the public, the praised. But true success, the kind that lasts, is not built in the spotlight. It is built in the shadows, in the quiet, in the unseen hours when the rest of the world is resting, wasting time, or wandering without direction. That 1 hour you guard each day, that sacred, silent hour, it is where real strength is planted. Not the kind that shouts, but the kind that endures, the kind that grows slowly, deeply, until it becomes unshakable. You may not have the loudest voice, you may not be racing down the fastest path, but you have the power to prepare, and preparation is the seed of greatness. 1 hour of quiet strength practiced daily will outlast 10 hours of noise, because when the noise fades, when the applause dies down, all that remains is what you've built within. Build when no one watches. Practice when there is no praise. Master your craft when no one claps. Because when your moment comes, and it will, you will be ready. Not scrambling, not rehearsing, but already standing in your strength, while others are still trying to find theirs. There was once a farmer. Every day, he rose 1 hour before the sun, not to tend his fields, not to feed his animals, but to study. By lantern light, with hands calloused from labor, he turned pages. He read history, philosophy, rhetoric. He sharpened his mind the way he sharpened his tools. His neighbors laughed. They said, "What use is study to a man who plows dirt?" Years passed, crops came and went, but one day, that farmer began to speak. He wrote words that moved crowds. He gave speeches that lifted the broken. He mentored leaders, guided communities, and shaped a generation. His name was once unknown, but the hour he spent in quiet preparation made him unforgettable. Ask yourself, are you strengthening your roots or just polishing your leaves? Because storms don't test the shiny parts. They test the foundation, and your foundation is built in secret, in the hour no one sees, in the decisions no one applauds. Do not be fooled by surface success. The man who prepares in silence will always outlast the man who performs for praise. Because when the wind howls and the sky darkens, only one kind of man stands tall, the one whose strength was grown underground. Make your hour sacred, make it strong. Do the hard things, the quiet things, the things that require faith. Build your mind, sharpen your skills, discipline your habits, not for the show, but for the storm, because the storm will come. And when it does, titles won't save you, applause won't shield you, only preparation will. And the man who is prepared in secret will rise in power, not panic. The foundation of your future is not built in the future, it's built now, 1 hour at a time, in the quiet, in the dark, when no one is watching but you. Guard that hour like your life depends on it, because in the end it does. Let the hour heal, not just hustle. Many mistake progress for pressure. They assume that to grow, they must grind, that every minute of self-development must feel like strain. But the truth is far deeper. The 1 hour you give to yourself each day should not only push, it should restore. It should not merely drain, it should refill. This hour is not just a means to get ahead. It is a sacred pause, a moment to return to yourself. In a world that praises motion, your power lies in meaning. And meaning does not come from speed or volume, it comes from depth. Let this hour take you deeper. Let it be a space where you reconnect with your soul, with your dreams, with your inner compass. Not to hustle harder, but to hear more clearly. Whether you walk, write, pray, stretch, read, or simply sit in silence, your hour is a place of reconnection. Life pulls you in 1,000 directions. Deadlines shout. Responsibilities multiply. Expectations tighten. But that hour, it brings you home. It whispers, you are not just a worker, not just a provider, not just a role. You are a soul, a living, breathing soul in pursuit of peace, purpose, and wholeness. There once lived a young mother. Her days were filled with noise, diapers, dishes, errands, endless giving. But each night when the house was quiet, she took 60 minutes to write letters to her future self. Not goals, not checklists, just thoughts, feelings, hopes. In that sacred space, she found something rare, peace, not just productivity. She wasn't trying to prove anything. She was simply being. And when the storms of life came, and they did, she returned to those letters. She read her own words and remembered her own strength. That hour didn't just keep her going. It kept her grounded. What if your hour was not about chasing more, but about becoming whole? What if it wasn't just the time you spent to improve, but the time you needed to remember, to realign your values, to breathe your own air, to ask yourself the questions no one else will. Who am I becoming? What am I truly seeking? Am I living or merely existing? Because the world will give you 1,000,000 tasks, but only you can give yourself truth. That is what this hour is for. It is the space between your doing and your being. And it is in this space where your direction is clarified. You are not a machine. You are not measured by motion. You are measured by direction. You are not just here to complete tasks. You are here to become someone, to grow into the person your younger self dreamed of. And your future self depends on the choices you make in these quiet moments. Let your hour be more than a productivity hack. Let it be a compass, a place where you recalibrate, where you say, no more noise, no more pretending, just me, meeting myself again. Because when you use your hour to realign and restore, you do not just become more effective, you become more alive, more centered, more powerful in a way that no external metric can measure. Protect this hour, cherish it, not because it gets you ahead, but because it brings you back to your truth, to your worth, to yourself. Use the hour to rewrite your identity. The man who changes his life must first change the way he sees himself. No transformation begins with action alone. It begins with identity. Who you believe you are sets the tone for every decision, every risk, every step forward. And identity is not fixed. It is forged, malleable, shaped through intention, molded through repetition. The hour you claim each day is your forge. This is where you strip away who you were taught to be. It is where you set fire to the image that no longer fits. This hour is your mirror and your... Here, you do not react to the labels others gave you. You redefine yourself. You cannot act like a failure and expect the results of a victor. You cannot carry the language of limitation and walk into expansion. So each day, declare who you are becoming. Speak it out loud, write it, walk in it, even before it feels true. Because identity, once claimed in habit, becomes reality. It doesn't begin with evidence. It begins with belief. There was once a shy tailor, soft-spoken, invisible to most. But within him burned a desire to lead, to speak, to make change. So every day, before opening his shop, he spent 1 hour alone, practicing speeches, speaking to the walls, to silence. His neighbors mocked him, his customers laughed, but he kept showing up. 1 hour, every day. He didn't wait until he was invited. He practiced until he could not be ignored. And in time, that quiet tailor became a statesman. His voice echoed across nations. His words moved parliaments. And it all began with a daily hour and a new vision of who he was becoming. So ask yourself, do you still see yourself through yesterday's eyes? Are you dragging old stories into a new season? Are you rehearsing doubts that were never yours to keep? Or are you daring to draw a new vision? One where your habits match your hopes. One where your daily rituals reflect the man you are choosing to become. Because this hour is more than time. It is a statement, a declaration of ownership. You are not what happened to you. You are not what they said. You are what you decide to become. 1 hour at a time. Let this hour be the birthplace of a new you, not born from fantasy, but from focus. A you who commands his day with clarity, who creates instead of waits, who conquers fear by meeting it in private before facing it in public. This is your identity hour, not to chase tasks, but to become someone, to align your actions with your future, to remind your body, mind, and spirit who leads this life. And the truth is, no one can forge this identity for you. No applause can give it to you. It must be claimed, built, lived. Each time you show up, you reinforce a new reality. Each time you step into the image of your future self, you take another brick from vision to truth. So speak boldly, even if only the walls hear you. Act consistently, even if only your reflection notices. Because change doesn't wait for an audience. It begins when you do. And the man who changes his identity will soon find that life begins to follow. Make the hour the seed of legacy. The greatest men are not remembered for what they owned, not for the size of their house, the wealth in their vaults, or the titles beside their name. They are remembered for what they built, for the impact they carved into the world. And what they built did not begin in applause. It began in quiet. Their legacies were not born on stages. They were seeded in solitude, in early mornings, in late nights, in sacred hours the world never saw. That 1 hour you give each day may seem small, insignificant, invisible, but it is not about size. It is about seeding the eternal. Every page you write, every lesson you teach, every act you repeat in discipline and devotion, it builds something far beyond the moment. It becomes a message, a compass for those who follow, a signal that says, this is the way. Your hour is not just about you. It is about what you leave, what you pass on, what continues when you are no longer here to explain it. There once lived a man who spent 1 hour every evening writing reflections for his children, lessons on patience, on love, on faith. He never published them, never sought fame, but when he passed, his children found those pages, and in them they found him, his wisdom, his presence, his voice still guiding. Those words shaped their decisions, comforted them in trials, and were later shared with grandchildren. 1 hour a day turned into a legacy of generations. So I ask you, are you building just for yourself, or are you building for something that lasts? Are your hours consumed by the urgent or invested in the eternal? Because the world will not remember your calendar, it will remember your contribution. And that contribution is built 1 hour at a time. Let your hour echo. Let it leave clues. Let it plant seeds in the soil of history, whether through words, through craft, through kindness, or through courage. Let your hour speak beyond your time. You may not see the fruit, you may not hear the applause, but your work will whisper into the future. You are not just a man. You are a message, a bridge, a builder. And when you give 1 hour a day to legacy, you begin to shift the direction of bloodlines. You stop thinking as a consumer and start living as a creator, not only of content, but of culture, of values, of identity. This is not theory, it is practice. The practice of planting trees whose shade you may never sit beneath. The practice of building paths that others may walk without knowing your name, but walking safer, stronger, freer because you once stood where they now stand. Let your hour be an offering. A brick in a cathedral you'll never see completed. A note in a song sung long after you're gone. Because the man who gives 1 hour to legacy does more than leave behind things. He leaves behind meaning. He becomes a father of nations, not through birth, but through belief. So show up, not just for today, but for tomorrow. And for those whose names you'll never know, but whose futures depend on your hour, let that hour become your immortality. Turn the hour into a daily victory. Victory is not found on battlefields. It is found in routines, in quiet, consistent, unglamorous action. The hour you conquer each day is not just a moment, it is a message. A declaration to the world, to your circumstances, and to yourself. I am not ruled by chance, I am led by choice. In that 1 hour, you step outside the pull of the world and into the power of your will. When you protect that hour, when you show up in discipline, in focus, in purpose, you are stacking victories. They may not be visible yet, but they are felt deeply. They accumulate beneath the surface, becoming strength, confidence, clarity. You don't have to change everything at once. You just have to win the hour. That hour becomes your edge, your rhythm, your advantage in a world full of distraction. There once was a young clerk, ordinary by every definition. He wasn't the fastest learner. He didn't come from wealth, but he ended every single day with one commitment: study just 1 hour. While others played cards or wandered aimlessly through the evening, he cracked open books, took notes, asked questions no one else bothered to ask. He was never the smartest, but he was the most consistent. And over time, that consistency paid off. 1 hour led to clarity. Clarity led to opportunity. He opened a business, then 2, then 10. Not because he stumbled into luck, but because he won an hour a day for years. Quietly, steadily, without applause. That is what winning looks like. Not noise, not drama, just repetition, just devotion to a cause greater than comfort. So ask yourself, are you finishing each day defeated or victorious? Did you spend your hour on something that builds you or something that drains you? That 1 hour is your flag. Raise it daily. Let it be your banner in a world that would rather see you distracted, delayed, or discouraged. Defend it like a soldier defends his post, because your dreams depend on it. Every time you choose that hour over excuses, you prove something powerful, that you are not a prisoner of mood or circumstance. You are a commander of destiny, a builder of purpose, a keeper of inner flame. Let that hour become your weapon, not to fight others, but to defeat the worst parts of yourself: laziness, fear, doubt, delay. You won't always see results right away, but you will feel something stirring, a shift, a strengthening, a stillness that grows louder with time. That is the sound of mastery. That is the echo of quiet triumph. Because the man who wins his hour wins his life, not in one great battle, but in thousands of small ones, fought in silence, won in solitude. So draw the line, mark the time, light the lamp, and begin. 1 hour, one choice, one victory at a time. Use the hour to prepare for life's trials. Every man meets his trial. Some see it coming like distant thunder. Others are ambushed in the dead of night. But no man escapes it. Pain comes. Pressure arrives. Life, in its brutal honesty, will test you. And the only man who does not fall is the one who trained before the war, not during it. That sacred hour you claim each day, that is your quiet preparation. It is not for vanity or applause. It is for the unseen battles, for storms you cannot predict, for betrayals you never expected, for resistance you must one day overcome. And if you wait until the trial arrives to begin preparing, it is already too late. This hour is not just about building skills. It is about fortifying your spirit. It is where you strengthen the muscle of resilience, not in the chaos, but in the calm. Resilience is not born in crisis. It is revealed there, but it is built in peace, in daily decisions, in silent disciplines. When you study, when you journal, when you rehearse your vision, day after day, you are layering armor upon your soul. And when the storm hits, as it surely will, you will not panic, because your roots are deep, because you have already walked the battlefield in your mind, because the chaos outside does not match the calm within. There was once a widow, a quiet woman with no grand platform. Each evening, while others lost themselves in distraction, she opened her book of scripture. She memorized wisdom, reflected, prayed. Her friends laughed, called it quaint, outdated, sentimental. But she kept showing up 1 hour a day, quietly, faithfully. Then the tragedy came, one that would have broken most. But she did not collapse. She did not despair. Her spirit stood tall, anchored, unmoved. Her hour had made her indestructible. Her strength had been forged not in the fire, but long before it. And when the flames came, she walked through them without burning. So ask yourself, are you preparing for the inevitable? Or are you hoping that life will spare you? Because it won't. It doesn't. It never has. But it does honor the man who honors his preparation. The man who trains when it's easy becomes the man who endures when it's not. He does not beg for escape. He rises to meet the moment because he built himself for it. Let your hour be your refuge. Let it be your training ground, not just for productivity, but for strength, mental, emotional, spiritual. Write your thoughts. Sharpen your mind. Speak truth to yourself. Meditate. Read the ancient words that remind you of who you are. This hour is your shield, and every time you show up, you forge one more link in the chain of your character. When others freeze, you will move. When others fold, you will rise. When others question everything, you will remember who you are. Because the man who prepares in peace will not perish in chaos. He will prevail. So do not waste this hour. Do not treat it lightly. You are not just passing time. You are planting strength, laying foundations, building the man the world will one day need. Start now, before the war comes, because when it does, you won't have to become strong. You'll already be. Let the hour transform time into meaning. Time by itself means nothing. It ticks forward whether you are present or absent, deliberate or distracted. Time is neutral. It can be wasted, it can be passed, or it can be infused with meaning. What gives time its value is not its passage, but its purpose. That 1 hour you claim each day becomes sacred not because of what it is, but because of what it contains. It becomes more than just 60 minutes. It becomes a vessel, a container of your focus, your effort, your attention. And what you pour into it determines what it becomes. When you use that hour to reflect, to create, to grow, you are injecting it with meaning. You are assigning intention to time. And intention is what separates an existence from a life. Purpose turns ordinary moments into eternal marks. A single hour of focused purpose can change the trajectory of your week, your mindset, your future. This hour isn't just for getting ahead. It is not another notch in a productivity belt. It is not about hustle for the sake of hustle. This hour is for getting aligned with what matters, with what is real, with what is worthy of your energy and your attention. There was once a postman, an ordinary man with an ordinary route. But each evening before sleep, he sat with a pen and paper and wrote 1 page of reflection. Not to publish, not to impress, but to understand. To ask himself, what did I learn today? Where did I grow? Where did I fall short? That simple act, done daily, clarified his thoughts, refined his values, shaped his entire path. He didn't just pass through life. He interpreted it. He translated his experience into insight. And in doing so, he built a kind of wisdom most people never touch, not because they're incapable, but because they never pause. So I ask you, do you use time, or does time use you? Do you shape your hours, or are they shaped for you by noise, urgency, and outside agendas? That 1 hour can be your answer. It can redeem the rest of the day. Even if the morning was scattered, even if the afternoon was rushed, this hour can bring you back. It can serve as the fulcrum of the day, where chaos ends and clarity begins. Let your hour redeem the day. Let it hold your highest values: honesty, courage, reflection, faith, discipline. Let it be a place where you do not perform, but return to yourself, to your mission, to your inner truth. Because time, once aligned with purpose, becomes a mirror of the soul. It shows you who you are. It reveals what you care about. It reflects the difference between what is urgent and what is important. When you honor the hour, you honor your life. You prove that life is not made of years, it is made of moments, deeply lived. And those moments begin with 1 hour, deliberately chosen, courageously kept. So protect it, guard it, and use it, not just to get more done, but to become more whole. Not just to achieve, but to align. Because when your time reflects your values, your life begins to reflect your soul. And that is the mark of a life well lived, 1 sacred hour at a time. Elevate the hour into a daily standard. Standards are not declared, they are demonstrated. Not in grand statements, not in motivational speeches, but in daily choices, especially when no one is watching. The man who shows up, no matter how he feels, builds something far greater than skill or success. He builds a reputation, not with the world, but with himself. Your 1 hour a day is your standard. It is the line you refuse to drop. It's not a hobby. It's not a goal. It's a declaration. This is who I am, regardless of how I feel. And every time you uphold that standard, you reinforce your identity, not in theory, but in action. That's what makes it real, not because anyone is watching, but because you are. You are always watching yourself. You are always listening to what you do more than what you say. And each time you show up for that hour, tired, distracted, uncertain, you become more certain of who you are. There was once a schoolboy. He was average in every way. Nothing about him stood out, except for one thing. He was mocked for his stutter. His voice trembled. His words stumbled. But instead of withdrawing, he made a private vow. 1 hour a day, every day, he would practice oration, alone, in front of a mirror, to empty rooms, to silence. His classmates laughed. Teachers underestimated him. But he upheld his standard, not once, not for a week, but for years. And that quiet consistency transformed him. His speech sharpened, his confidence grew, his voice became power. Years later, that boy became a senator, and his voice, the one that once broke under pressure, now moved nations. His peers never saw the practice, never witnessed the discipline, but they felt the results, because standards kept in secret always lead to victories made public. So ask yourself, are you governed by emotion or by conviction? Do you move when it's convenient or because it's necessary? Are you waiting to feel ready, or are you training yourself to be ready no matter what? Let your hours speak louder than your mood. Let it become a promise you never break. Because the difference between average and exceptional is not in talent, it is in standard. And your standard is set not when it's easy, but when it's hard. That hour is your battlefield, not against others, but against comfort, against excuse, against the lie that says, skip today, it doesn't matter. It matters, because your standards are either being strengthened or weakened with every choice you make. Keep the hour. Not because of results, not for recognition, but because that hour defines you. Because every time you honor it, you're proving to yourself, I can be trusted, I finish what I start, I show up even when I don't feel like it. And that self-trust, that's the root of all greatness. Because when life demands something more from you, you won't have to search for strength. You'll already have it. Built-in quiet, built-in discipline, built-in your hour. Let others guess how you became who you are. Let them wonder where your resolve comes from. You'll know. You'll know it came from a standard you never let fall. So raise the line, guard the hour, keep the promise, and one day the world will feel the weight of what you did when no one else was looking. Shape the hour into a habit of honor. Honor is not outdated, it is simply rare. In a world chasing shortcuts, speed, and spectacle, honor has become quiet, almost invisible, but it still lives, and it is revealed not in grand gestures, but in the smallest of commitments, when you keep your hour, not because it is easy, but because you said you would. You are shaping your life around honor. You are proving that your word means something, that your standard does not bend to convenience. You are drawing a line and saying, this is who I am, even when no one else sees. You may not feel like it, but you do it. You may not see immediate results, but you remain faithful, because honor is not concerned with applause. It is concerned with integrity. And integrity means doing what you said you'd do long after the feeling that made you say it has faded. There was once a soldier. He served with distinction, waking each day before dawn to prepare for battle. But even after the war ended, even when he returned to civilian life, he kept waking early. Not out of obligation, not because anyone demanded it, but because it had become a rhythm of dignity, a quiet oath to himself. He rose before the sun, made his bed, reviewed his goals, reflected, prepared. That hour, once forged in the rigors of war, had become his compass. He lived each day with intention, not by accident. And though no one saluted him anymore, his life remained anchored in discipline and clarity. Because honor, once cultivated, does not vanish with the circumstances. It becomes you. Ask yourself, do you follow through on the promises you make to yourself, or do you abandon them at the first resistance? Do you let mood decide your commitment, or do you let character speak louder than comfort? The hour you keep is more than routine. It is a vow, a daily oath, a private contract between you and the man you are becoming. It is not flashy, it is not loud, but it is real. And it builds something inside you that no one can take away. Let this hour remind you that true honor begins with keeping your own word. Not because someone else is watching, but because you are. You are the one who must live with yourself. And the way to build self-respect is to prove consistently that your word matters, that your promises are not suggestions, but sacred agreement. We live in an age where quitting is easy, where flaking is normal, where breaking a promise to yourself is seen as harmless, but it isn't. Every broken promise chips away at your foundation, and every kept promise strengthens it. This hour, kept faithfully, is how you rebuild trust with yourself. It is how you reclaim lost confidence, how you establish a baseline of pride. Not pride in appearance, but pride in integrity. So let this hour be your declaration, not to the world, but to yourself. Let it say, I am a man who finishes when he starts. I show up when it's hard. I stand by my word. Honor is not something you are given. It is something you live. And it begins right here with 1 hour. Repeated, defended, upheld. Let that hour lead you, not just to progress, but to peace. The kind of peace that only comes when a man knows he is doing right by himself. And in the end, that is what honor truly is. Keeping your own word, no matter what. Let the hour lead the day. The beginning determines the direction. Just as a ship's course is set by its launch, your day is shaped by its first hour. If the beginning of your day belongs to growth, clarity, and purpose, then the rest of the day follows that rhythm, that momentum, that strength. Let the hour lead, not trail. If you wait until evening, the day will already be spoken for. Distractions will have multiplied. Demands will have drained you. By nightfall, the energy you need to build your vision will have been spent on obligations, noise, and the urgent. But when you rise and give your first light to your highest aim, you flip the script. You become the author, not the reader, of your own day. Your priorities are no longer something you chase. They are something you command. You start from intention, not reaction. From clarity, not confusion. There was once a factory man. Ordinary job, long shifts, little control over his schedule. But he made a quiet decision. To begin each day with silence and a pen. 1 hour before work, he wrote. Not for fame, not for anyone else, just for himself. He wrote what he wanted, what he feared, what he believed. And then he worked. But something had changed. He no longer felt owned by his labor. He was led by his clarity. He carried the power of that hour with him into every machine, every meeting, every moment. His hands worked hard, but his mind walked free. That first hour didn't erase his duties. It reordered them. And that is what the first hour does. It orders chaos. It declares, I lead my life. My life does not lead me. So ask yourself, who leads your day, you or your circumstances? Is your schedule built around your vision, or is your vision buried beneath your schedule? If you want power, begin with principle. If you want peace, begin with order. The morning is your forge. The first light is your teacher. What you do with it matters more than what anyone else does all day. Give your hour the first say. Before text, before emails, before the world makes its demands, listen to your own voice, your inner compass, your calling. Let that hour be your lighthouse, a beacon that guides the rest of your time, a signal to your soul. This matters. I matter. My future begins now. Because the day listens to the man who starts it with strength, the day follows the one who leads it with conviction. And when you begin with that hour, with that sacred space of reflection, vision, and discipline, you don't just survive the day, you shape it. You walk differently, decide differently, speak differently, because you are not reacting, you are responding. Not drifting, you are directing. Let this be your habit, your daily edge, your silent revolution. Rise with purpose, start with strength. Let the first hour belong to the best in you, and the rest of the day will follow. So start today. Set aside 1 hour, not for work, not for others, but for your own growth. Guard it, build with it, make it sacred. Because a year from now, you won't remember the excuses, you'll remember the transformation. 1 hour a day, that's how it begins.